gosh, when I was younger, there's two stories I can think of, but when I was younger, I really thought that maybe one day I would open up a long-term care facility. That was something that I really thought that I might do. Um, my grandfather on my mom's side used to go and take care of his mom. And because they watched me a lot of times I would go with him. And sometimes we would take her shopping, but a lot of times we would go shopping for her and then just take her the things that she wanted. So we would take her prunes and we would take her some of her favorite snacks. And when we would go visit with her, she was just in this flat 1-story house with one caregiver. And that one caregiver was taking care of anywhere between 6 to 8 clients at the same time. And my grandmother was one of those clients that was getting taken care of. And she shared a room with another woman. It was just a twin size bed and a dresser on one side. And then the other lady had a twin size bed and a dresser in that same room. And a lot of them would congregate in the living room. But the living room was dark and dreary. And it was just kind of sad environment. And they would eat their meals on TV trays in this living room. And they had one of those big box TVs in the corner, and they would always be watching, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and just game show things, Murder, She Wrote, things like that would be on the television. But the curtains were always drawn. It was always dark. There was like a yellow lamp in the corner. Everything seemed musty and sad. And I just remember feeling so sorry for her. What an existence. She lived this full life, and then this is where she's spending her last days. And it was just depressing. Really. I remember we took her out. She needed to get some new undergarments, and we took her to a Macy's, another store that doesn't exist anymore. And I took her into the dressing room and I was helping her to try on a bra. I was only 12 and I did not volunteer for this. My grandpa was like, you need to go in there and help her. I was like, not me. He said, well, I can't go into the women's dressing room. You have to go. So I went in there with my grandmother, and I just remember the look on her face of gratitude, also some humility. It was just a very humbling experience to be helping someone with such a simple task that they weren't able to do for themselves. And she almost seemed like, I'm so sorry that I can't do this for myself, and I need somebody to help. And I just, at 12, was like, helping her through this process and just trying to be as gracious as I could with assisting her to try this on. And she couldn't lift her arms up. It was just, she didn't have the mobility to be able to put her blouse on by herself or take her blouse off by herself or do the buttons, And that was my real first experience with somebody needing a caregiver. A caregiver isn't someone who has that on their job title that gets paid to do that thing. There's family caregivers across America all the time that get thrown into this at many different ages because somebody in their family needs it. Somebody that they love can't do something for themselves, and boom, a caregiver is born. That's just how it happens. And that was something that stuck with me forever. And I thought, I want to build a place that's happy and bright and fun and vibrant, and let these people have dignity in their last days. That got reinforced when I went to work at one of my, not my first job, but one of my first jobs. I was only about 19 years old when I went to work as a bath nurse. And it was for a similar type of facility that my grandma had been in. It was a little bit bigger than that. And I think it was a 6 or 7 bedroom house, and then it had on the property, it had a guest house. So the main caregiver lived in the guest house that was located on the same property, and all the residents lived in this 6 or 7 bedroom flat, 1-story house. And most of them shared rooms. The caregiver who was responsible for taking care of these people, I don't think she was initially a bad person, but she was burnt out, clearly and severely burnt out. And because of that, she was not in a mental, healthy headspace to be caring for other individuals. And it was extremely clear to me, even though I was so young. I felt horrible for the residents who were living there who had to put up with the caregiver. It was one lady and her boyfriend who lived on the property who were charged with taking care of all of these people during the entire day. She had somebody else that came in on the weekends and somebody else that came in overnight, but all day, 5 days a week, maybe even 6. I don't know exactly what her deal was. She was it for these people, and she made their meals and she helped them on and off the toilet. It was too many people for one person to handle. She was burnout. She was resentful. She was agitated. She was irritated, and she was taking all of her emotions out on the clientele that was at that home. I was only there for a few months before she got me fired. And she got me fired for pointing out the fact that she was trying to get the night person fired, and the night person was great with the clients and she was doing a good job. And I overheard her talking to someone else. She was trying to get her fired because she thought this person was going to try to take her job, that she had heard that she would rather work days eventually. She didn't want that to happen, so she was trying to get this wonderful caregiver fired. I did not want to see that happen because the residents who lived there, that was their only reprieve from her awfulness. And so I told the night caregiver when she came on shift, be careful, watch your back, because this woman has it out for you. This is what I heard her say. The owner got involved, and she, instead of fixing the problem, was so reliant on this horrible caregiver and didn't want to do the job that she was doing. So she wanted to keep her and make her happy. So she said I was causing drama and I needed to go, which I was not upset for myself losing the job. It wasn't a deal where it was going to affect me financially very much not having it, but I felt awful for the clients that I was leaving behind because I had made some relationships with the clients. And I remember watching someone's hair and taking extra time. I only got paid for a set amount of time for each shower. So if I stayed over, that was my free time. And she would come in and she would try to rip a brush through somebody's hair really fast, and she's pulling the hair and the clients are saying, ow, that hurts. And I said, hey, I got this. She's like, well, you need to not take that much time. And I said, it's fine. I don't have anywhere else that I need to be right now. I can take my time. I can be gentle. The woman, I was brushing her hair, and she was telling me all about how Clint Eastwood was going to ride in on a horse, and it was going to be this big white horse, and he was going to come get her, and they were going to go get married. And she told me all about the hillside that they were going to get married on, and how many flowers and the wildflowers and the horse and all this stuff. And the woman comes in and she's like, no, you're not. No, he's not. Stop living in a fantasy world. And I was like, hey, what is wrong with you? She can think that if that's what makes her happy in this dark and dreary world, why not just listen to her and say, that sounds wonderful. Oh my gosh, that must be so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Well, let's brush your hair and and get you ready for that, And that is the danger of putting your loved one in a facility and not going checking on them, not being an advocate for them. And also something that we're seeing far too much of, where facility owners are disconnected from their staff, what their staff is doing. And it's really scary. And I think home care is the best if you can afford it. A lot of people have long-term care insurance. If you don't have long-term care insurance and you are at an age where you can afford to get it and still qualify for it, I would highly encourage you to get long-term care insurance for yourself and for your loved ones, because it is a game changer. Care in the home can be very expensive. And if you don't have yourself set up to be able to pay for that in your retirement, long-term care can really help to bridge those gaps. So definitely consider doing that for yourself and your loved ones. It is priceless when it comes to these types of things, because not all facilities are bad. I'm not here to say that. I'm just saying, in my experience, some of the things that we have seen, that I've seen personally with my own experience with work and also with my experience in my personal life, whether it's my grandma or my dad, I've seen facilities that aren't up to par. And I think home care is where most people want to be. Most people don't want to give up all of their belongings and go to a strange place. They want to stay home.